Hello.
Hey, is this Noel Monk?
I think so.
Hey, Noel.
Hey, buddy, it's Mike and Jay from the Detroit Cast. How are you?
How you doing? Good. I got a little bit of a sore throat. Aside from that, I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, you got
Sound
a little.
like one of the mob right now.
Oh yeah,
Little
yeah.
bit.
little bit of a cold. That's okay. You sound fine. Is this your home number we're calling yet, Noel?
No one uses home numbers. It's my cell.
Oh, it's your cell. Is it just coincidence that the phone number ends the way it ends?
You betcha. Isn't that weird?
That's extremely weird.
We won't say what it is.
Yeah, we won't say what it is, but I'm sure Van Halen fans can figure out what
Oh,
phone.
I don't care.
All right, it ends in 5150, which seems a little too coincidental, Noel.
I did. How could you? You don't ask for phone numbers.
All right, I'll give you benefit of the doubt. Anyway, we've really enjoyed your book, Runnin With The Devil, a backstage pass to the Wild Times, Loud Rock, and Down and Dirty Truth behind the making of Van Halen by you, sir, as their first manager. How's the book doing?
It seems to be doing real well. Frankly, you guys have been great doing the interviews.
Yeah?
Oh yeah. Without you, the book wouldn't be getting out there, and it seems to be getting out there.
Well, you're welcome,
A lot
Noel.
of people.
You can cut us
No,
into.
I really appreciate it.
We can talk points later. That's fine.
Yeah, right. Well, for those that don't know, Noel Monk, who we're talking to here, was Van Halen's manager from 1978 through 1985. That's quite an impressive stretch for Van Halen fans.
Yeah. The one thing I want to get to, guys, is that I'd like a little more of the sense of humor of the book. You know, people take it and, you know, there are some, like, weird things and tough things that went on, but we had a really good time.
Well,
I mean, I don't
would
want to
hope so.
get that lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, I think that definitely comes through in the book.
Yeah.
No question about it. The whole time, you know, while you definitely do dish some dirt on things and give details, it's not in a mean-spirited way, but you give details of what you observe, but the whole time you're going, hey, this is a hell of a lot of fun, and I was really glad to be along for the ride. Mm-hmm. So that comes through.
I mean, just putting fish in Peter's bed was so much fun.
Well, you were not Van Halen's first manager. That was a guy, and it doesn't sound like you liked him very much. What was his name? Marshall Burrell?
Yeah, I loved him. Are you kidding? No. I had a few issues with him.
Yeah. He sounds kind of out of touch. Maybe wasn't there as much as a manager needed to be, and kind of creepy, too. Wasn't he the guy that was filming those guys, like, when they were getting it on with groupies and stuff?
Yeah, what was up with that? This is their business manager making a videotape compilation of them banging groupies.
Unbelievable.
And where
I mean, I didn't happen to be in them, but I've never seen anything like that. And frankly, if I had a band as good as that, I'd glue myself to them. I hardly ever saw them.
Yeah, well, that seems odd that the manager wouldn't be around, but you were their tour manager at the time. How did you become the official manager of Van Halen?
Well, the first year, basically, we were on the road 8-9 months. And I was on every date. And what I did with young acts, I try and teach them about the business, you know, so they wouldn't get as killed as they were getting killed. And we spent a lot of time in my room talking about what the business entails, what recoupment is. And we got along really well, and they realized that I was fairly savvy. I had never managed a band before, but I had also been in the business 25 years. And I guess anyone that pours Southern Comfort for Janis Joplin has certain credibility. But,
sure.
By the time those videos got out and a bunch of other things, which I delineate in the book, they wanted out. And I did say to them, and it's in the book, before you take me on, I want you to go to every big manager and check them out. I don't want you to make a mistake with me.
Yeah.
And they did. And we were together for 7 years.
Yeah, it's amazing. It sounds like there was a lot of partying going on. Are you still partying nowadays, Noel?
Not quite as much.
But a little bit.
A little bit here and there, though.
We do the wheelchair shuffle. No,
You sound a little buzzed up right now. I don't know if it's your cold or what, but you sound like you're in
no,
good spirits.
I got a real bad. No, I don't do drugs anymore. I don't even drink anymore.
Really?
Yeah, I mean I'll drink occasionally,
Yeah,
but
today, an hour ago.
you know.
Yeah.
But that's the way I normally sound, a little buzzed out.
There you go.
know.
There you go.
Nothing wrong with that.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Anyway, one of the other interesting things we learned in your book was that the famous Van Halen, that VH logo.
Oh, it's a ripoff, man.
I had no idea that wasn't original until your book, Noel.
Yeah, there's a couple things in there that even surprised me.
Yeah.
And that was one of them. I opened that up after we left. Well, actually, it was a year afterwards, and it was in a box when we had come from the manager's office. And I undid it. And let me tell you, I was shocked. I mean, it was like, no, there's got to be a mistake here. But it was in his office before the logo was made.
Yeah, it's undeniable.
Yeah,
He ganked it.
It's Jimi Hendrix's, like an old Jimi Hendrix logo.
The J and the H.
And it shapes the form of that famous Van Halen logo identically.
With like the metallic look and the
like the wings
coming
on
off
it. Yeah, everyone knows it.
Hey, Noel, is this a decent time in the interview to give mad props to your co-writer, Joe Layden? I think Joe did a hell of a job, didn't he?
No, he didn't do a hell of a job. He did a brilliant job.
Yes,
he did.
Yes.
I mean, my first book was good. I'm not a bad writer. My co-author was okay. But Joe came along
pulled this shit
and took
together.
my writing and made it into butter. He is brilliant.
Yeah.
Without Joe, that book would not have been nearly as good.
No way.
I mean, I give him so much, and we got
it doesn't even exist
over
without
a
him.
year together and never had one argument.
Is that right?
Yeah. I'm always interested in what a band is like, Noel, when they're really young. When you first meet Van Halen and they're just dying to get noticed. Were they a cool, young, like just party band? Were they professional? Were they obnoxious? What were they like early on?
They were a party band, but they wanted to make it. David desperately wanted to make it more than any of them. He wanted to be a superstar. They also, in the beginning, were a nice bunch of young guys. Easygoing, they weren't overly liquefied, shall we put it.
Sure.
Right.
I mean, that first year was just fun on wheels. The first 2-3 years was a lot of fun.
Well, they definitely had signed, like most young bands, a really shitty first deal. And with Warner Brothers.
You could say that.
But how did you get him out of it, Noel? Because you had to go through some pretty crazy steps to get Van Halen out of their original deal, which paid them really nothing and tied them to Warner Brothers into perpetuity, basically.
And did they ever recognize you for that? It seems like they just kind of like, oh yeah, cool, we're out of that.
Well, no, they didn't. But they were making about 75 cents an album, and we couldn't live on that. That's way less than $1 an album. And when I took over, I realized I knew I had to break that. And I've seen other acts try and break their record company deals, and they end up on the shelf. So I figured out that we had two records, and they had options after every 2 records. And we did the second record. And I'm thinking, I know this company very, very well. And I call it throwing sand in their eyes. They have what they call a tickler file, which shows you when their options are coming up. And I told the guys and the lawyer and the accountant, ask them for everything. Ask them for accounting. I tried to get as much money as I could for promotion, for the video, And all of a sudden, they forgot to pick up the option like I hoped.
Yeah, you changed the subject.
Yeah.
Well done, Noel.
And we went to $1.35, made them millions, and I mean millions.
Well done, sir.
Yeah.
$30 to $60 million and counting.
Well, moreover, you got them into the merchandising aspect of things. Like back then, I guess it was kind of uncommon to handle that on your own, and you had the bright idea.
Managers are lazy.
Yeah.
They hired Del Ferrano and my buddy Bill Graham.
Sure.
And they get 25%. I came from the garment business. I knew garments, and I said, guys, we can do it ourselves. They said, what do you know about T-shirts? I said, well, I know a lot about little girls' dresses. That's what my father sold. And we didn't get 25%. We were making 50% on the dollar.
And
that all went away when I went away, but
how was that possible, Noel? Why wouldn't you have that into perpetuity, that you came up with these deals? And because I think you got cut out of all your percentage points from their albums and from merch once you weren't with them anymore.
Because he only had a 30-day contract with them, right,
I had
Noel?
a 30-day contract.
That's bullshit.
They promised me in 6 months they'd give me a better contract, a 7-year contract. It didn't happen. After 2 years, I asked for it again. Didn't happen.
So why couldn't you figure out how to get more percentage points out of these guys? Half the time they were wasted. You'd figure you could take advantage of them and just go, oh yeah, don't you remember we signed a 7-year, 7-album deal last week, guys?
Yeah, they were pretty greedy, and they saw a way of doing exactly what they did. I got hurt pretty good with that one.
What was it like being around Eddie Van Halen? You know, I imagine he was constantly noodling with his guitar and playing. I mean, I just can't imagine sitting in a room with Eddie Van Halen as he just noodles on the guitar. How cool that would be.
Well, he used to sit in his room talking. He always, what he called noodling.
Right.
He'd noodle on his guitar. He never didn't have a guitar in his hand up until about 83, 84. But I loved him. We got along really well. If it wasn't for his big brother, who, you got to understand, think about it. You're 2 years older. Your baby brother is a genius and is recognized by everybody. And you're a good drummer. I don't take that away from Al.
Too much cymbal.
Always too much cymbal.
Yeah, Jay thinks he had too much cymbal.
So heavy on the cymbal. I guess it's,
well,
it's their signature sound.
He was not Buddy Rich. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And then that started eating away at Al. And Al had a propensity to drink, and I've never seen anyone drink like him.
Nobody?
Nobody.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. But the point being, I don't think he could take it that he was like, if he wasn't named Van Halen, he would have gone down like Michael.
Yeah.
The only reason he's still around is he's Ed's brother.
Talk about what they did to Michael. That was bullshit. Everything you hear about Michael Anthony is that he's just a stand-up, really good guy, and they really seem to screw him over.
Yeah.
It's hard to go over that again. I mean, you read the book, you will find out what happened.
Okay, teaser.
Yeah.
It's kind of rough to go over that. They took him for $10 or $15 million.
Yeah, basically, they decided that Michael Anthony, since he didn't write the music or the lyrics, that he wasn't an equal member. At the time, all 5 of you guys, including you, Noel Monk, were getting 20% of whatever Van Halen brought in. You split it 5 ways. And they just decided that Michael Anthony deserved nothing going forward, no points going forward on any of their back catalog, I believe.
In fact, they cut him out in 1984 after 1984 was done.
But they did it after the record was done.
Right.
Yeah.
They didn't do it before. They did it in the middle. And if Michael had come to me, and he was a sweet guy. He never gave me a problem, ever. I would have told him, Michael, tear it up, throw it in their face, tell them you're taking a vacation, and don't play tonight.
Yeah.
But he didn't come to me. And there was nothing I can do but sit and be disgusted at these three guys standing over him. He was signing it on the floor. And they stood over him with smirks on their face. I have never been as disgusted by any group of people as much as what they did to him.
Well, it's just cruel is what it is. It seems very, very cruel.
If Al, like I said, didn't have the name Van Halen, they would have done the same thing to him.
Yeah.
But Al was one of the instigators. And Michael had a voice that was beautiful. They needed that. And in all honesty, they didn't need Al. They could have gotten anyone to replace him. They could have gotten anyone to replace Michael on bass, but it was very hard to replace that voice. Mm-hmm. But Al was the one he was mean and greedy. Well, that's a horrible human being by the end.
Oh, boy.
And he started out being a very funny, kind of friendly guy.
Yeah. Well, that's where I think
Edward was so krelled out and drunk that Al could run over him like a tank. And, they had their dicks tied together. And so,
gross. Well, docking.
Yeah, it's family.
He could do whatever he wanted.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's where I think the book is really interesting, though, is not only do you give, in a book like this, everybody expects sort of the groupie talk and some of the fun stories about that, and we'll get into some of that, too. There definitely are some. But what I think is really interesting is the personalities behind it, how these guys developed as time went on, how they got, as you say, vicious with each other. And
excuse me.
And no problem. And details as to who was making the money and who wasn't. I think, again, I'm going to give huge props to Joe Layden, co-author here with Noel Monk, for really portraying the business end of this thing. I found that really interesting about your book, Noel.
You can say as much about Joe as you want. He is brilliant.
He is.
I've heard that.
And my wife and my daughter helped, and I had Matt Harper at HarperCollins.
Are you still with Jan? You talk about Jan in the book.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's good to hear.
Well, that story you tell about Jan, I think you guys brought her out. She was with you one day, and she notices there are like 40 or 50 road crew guys coming off the cruise trailer, and she's like, "What's going on over there?"
It was actually a bus.
Or their bus trailer. That was a little rough for you to explain to her like what was going on in that moment.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Do you want to explain now for our audience what was going on in that bus?
Well, I had 98 guys on the road, total 140 with the office and whatever. And these guys worked from 6:30 in the morning. And they needed a little bit of a release. And there's something that bugs me, and that is people put down women on the road.
Yeah, it's always bugged me too.
Sluts.
It bothers me too when I hear someone go, "Oh, those whores." It's like it's unfortunate that happens.
Are part
of the process, right, Noel? Part of the process.
Without them, like when we were with Sabbath in England, there were no women. The guys were going crazy.
Yeah.
And these girls were fans of the band. Anyhow, there were a couple girls in the back of the bus who were giving blowjobs to most of the crew.
Yeah.
And, that was pretty common.
Got a little K-Dog.
And I just couldn't, she said, "Are they having, dinner?" I said, "Well, not really."
Sort of. Protein, anyways.
They might have been getting eaten, but they weren't having dinner.
Oh, no. That was a pussy-eating joke.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Trump and I like pussy. What can I say?
Hey, speaking of food, man, and eating, guacamole. Tell us about the guacamole incident with Steve Perry.
Yes.
We're huge Journey fans over here, and you're about to tell a story about Steve Perry. I don't think Arnel Pineda would have done this.
I agree.
It's a great story. It's better told in the book, but I loved it. I was coming in from the stage, and Steve was a very nice guy. When he left the band, they got another guy who sings just like him.
Yeah, Arnel Pineda.
Incredible. Who's also an incredibly nice guy.
Yeah.
But I walk into the room and there is silence. and there was never silence in their dressing room. And everyone is looking at the floor. And I'm saying, shit, what did they do? And all of a sudden I said, all right, who did what? And it said it was David's fault. He threw a bowl of peanuts at me. I said, well, not a capital offense there, Ed. So Ed said I threw a bowl of guacamole at him. And there was this mirror that ran across the tables that you could look in and do your makeup and, And it was like about a 2.5 foot blank. And there was a stripe of green guacamole across the rest of it. I said, okay, who was in the blank? And Ed said, well, actually Steve Perry was. I said, you trashed the lead singer of the headlining act. And he said, well, we didn't mean to. Anyhow, I said, where is he? And he was in the bathroom, and I spent about an hour and a half cleaning him up.
And how big of a pussy is Steve Perry crying over this?
He was crying, yeah.
He's supposed to be a big, bad rock star.
It was a new Journey jacket.
Oh, one of those satin Journey jackets.
Yeah, with the tails on it. Did it have the tails?
Yeah, I would have broken down in tears too. Come on.
Really? A little guacamole on your jacket?
I would have been crying for days.
No, you wouldn't have, Noel.
I got very thin skin, That hurt to have my jacket messed up.
Hey, let me ask you this. Van Halen's famous for their diva-like concert venue rider, specifically as to M&Ms. I think everybody knows this story where they demand a certain color M&Ms. Only certain...
No brown ones.
Yeah, no brown ones. They're just unacceptable.
It's so simple.
Yeah, what was that all about? Why'd you do that?
He wrote it. He said, listen, Noel, they're not reading the rider. So, and we had like a phone book rider. So I put in, okay, Steve, I want a huge bowl of M&Ms, but no brown ones. And he said, why? I said, because we're going to fine them $100 for every one that's in there. And that way I knew they read the rider.
Yeah.
It was just road savvy on my part. And Steve said it worked. They're reading that rider after the third time they got penalized $2,000-$3,000.
So it got him to pay attention to the bigger issues.
To any issue. And the second one was even better. Steve and I came up with Coney Island whitefish. You know what that is?
No.
Coming from New York, if you've ever been to Coney Island on a Sunday morning, you see the Coney Island whitefish coming up on the sand. And what they are is used condoms. And we call them Coney Island whitefish.
Oh, no.
And they would bubble and bubble, and these condoms would be across the beach. What's wrong with you?
You're talking about used condoms rolling up on shore. Can I not be grossed out here, Noel?
I remember one little girl went to her daddy and said, Daddy, would you blow this balloon up? And everybody cracked up. Hey, you got to open your sensibilities up, guys.
Jay.
You can't be so straight.
Hey, you're the one who said he'd cry over spilled guacamole, okay? I can't be upset about a used condom rolling up on shore.
What can I say?
I think Jay's got you beat on that one, Noel.
Yeah, Noel. Come on.
You know what?
You guys are being pussies about this.
Yeah, I know. Jay is. I would agree with you that Jay is.
Fucked up. You got. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay. It's okay. We're a Christian radio show. That's why it's a little tough. So, but don't worry.
Yeah.
One of the other things, Noel, that came out in the book, and I was kind of disappointed. I don't mean to be a pussy about this, but it seemed like the guys were just cold in a lot of respects, very self-centered and cold. And one of the stories you told was about opening for the Rolling Stones. Big opportunity. Van Halen's huge. Rolling Stones are the Rolling Stones. And you guys were getting basically a limo drive from one end of the stadium to the other end of the stadium. And I just felt so bad for the limo driver having to put up with that shit. You want to explain what happened?
If I have to. Now, I don't know. They normally were respectful of other people's stuff. Well, all of a sudden, Al opened up the glove compartment and said, what's in here? And the guy said, oh, just papers. And he ripped it off. The glove compartment door off, and all of a sudden they went crazy.
In this guy's limo.
Tore this brand new, expensive limo to shreds. I remember Ed dancing on the roof.
Oh.
Now that I didn't appreciate of all their trashing, because it wasn't like a Dave L. limo. It was his personal limo. And so the guys went in and the limo was trashed. I mean, trashed. And I went up to him. I said, listen, you don't worry about it. I'm going to pay to get your limo fixed up and detailed. And until your limo is back working again, I'm going to pay you for all the time that it's not working.
It's the right thing to do, Noel.
He said, you're going to actually do that? Yeah. And you're going to get a 5,000 bonus over that.
Wow.
It took about a week to put it back together again. And I had to pay 20% of it, but you
got to enjoy the trashing
right.
too, though, so.
Yeah.
What?
I'm just kidding. Hey, Noel.
I was not trashing.
I know.
No,
I said you got to enjoy it, though. You got to be inside while it was going on. But, hey, talk about David Lee Roth. And
who? Never heard of him.
Talk about him and his personality and the creative differences between he and Ed that ultimately caused the split.
It was mainly because he was Jewish. We all hated Jews. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No.
I happen to be Jewish, so I can say things like that.
Sorry to hear
Anyhow, I'm sorry.
Sorry
I
you have to
interrupted
deal with
your
that.
very important question.
He's mocking you, Jay. What was your question again?
Yeah, David Lee. Look at your notes.
No, David Lee Roth. David Lee Roth's personality. And what was the ultimate split? It wasn't because he was a Jew. What was the ultimate thing that broke up Van Halen personality?
You really have to read the book. It's not one thing.
No, sell the book, dude. I read the fucking book. You sell it.
Well,
we're giving you a chance to sell it.
Tell them why they broke up.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, that's why we got you on the phone.
Yeah, I want to talk to Van Halen's manager.
All right, then let me get the book. I'll read it to you.
Fuck,
the
dude.
bottom line is you cannot pin it on Ed and David not getting along. You got to get into drugs, egos, greedy. You get into all these different things that caused them to break up. The way they treated Michael showed how bad they were getting. The fact that Al had dementia praecox and was seeing huge penises coming out of the wall.
Yeah,
that
pretty
was
extreme.
Part of it. You can't pin it on me to give you one or two things.
No, but
here's how this works, Noel. We call you. You're selling a book. I'm asking you a question. I'm setting it up for you.
It's a Nerf toss.
Yeah, it's a Nerf, dude. Talk about David Lee Roth. What a fucking cocksucker he is. His weird ass personality, and how the band broke up.
It's not as simple.
Well, that's how you start your answer. Look, that's not a simple answer, but let me tell you what. And then you go down the bullet points, right? And then you tell me all the things you said without bitching about it, man.
Yeah, Jay, you yelled at Jay a little bit, Noel.
You did, Noel. You joked about being Jewish. You threw it back at me.
Yeah, you basically called him a lousy interviewer. You called him a lousy interviewer, Noel.
Very sensitive.
Well, Jay,
I'm trying to move this along, man.
I'm gonna put a dress on.
I'm really trying to move this along.
Let's get down to it.
Hey, you're the guy with the guacamole. At the end of the day, you would cry over guacamole. I wouldn't. So you wear the dress, my friend.
All right, maybe I wouldn't. So I maybe was kidding with you.
No, you weren't.
Maybe not.
You admitted you would cry over spilt guacamole, Noel. You can't take
Noel.
it back
You're
now.
making my bones hurt.
I'm a sensitive guy. I'm going to wear a dress with you.
Hey, you were still manager for David Lee Roth, and I think the point Jay was getting to about the breakup was his solo career. And you were there for the
that was the bottom line. You see, when David said,
that should have been your final bullet
I'll give you
point.
a bottom line point.
Okay.
When David decided to do his own 4 EP, well, that obviated the ability for us to do an 85 tour.
Yeah.
We could not go out. If you want to pin it on something, pin it on that.
Noel, you're a feisty son of a bitch.
I love Noel. Hey, Noel, do you remember Eddie building his Frankenstein guitars and stuff? Do you remember being around when he was doing that?
Who?
Edward Van Halen.
What about that kid?
When he was building his Frankenstein guitars, you know, when you go on the road, Noel, you're funny. When you go on the road, you take 50 guitars. You can't take 50 like handmade by Eddie Van Halen guitars. So what would he do? Did he have a bunch of Frankenstein guitars?
Yeah, he made up with a deal with a guitar company. They made them up, and he sold them as his guitars.
Dumb question, Mike.
Oh, I feel like a moron.
You know,
Can you tell us what a good?
he did? He spent all his time making guitars.
Hey, Noel, can you
I
tell us?
don't know. That's right.
You
There's only one person on this phone line right now, Noel, that was in the room that could absolutely answer that question, and it ain't me.
Noel,
You're
tell
right.
me.
I apologize.
Noel, you tell me what I should ask you next.
Ask me how good looking I am.
How good looking are you?
I'll tell you what, dude. You got some pictures in there.
Incredibly good looking for a 97-year-old man.
Do you still have the mustache?
Of course.
Because that thing
How
was
would you
kicking some
recognize
major
me?
ass.
I mean, that tickles a pussy.
Oh,
Noel,
boy,
I got to
Noel.
be honest with you. You don't look 97. I'm not going to call you a liar to your face, but you don't look 97.
All right, 96.
Okay, maybe. Hey, did you keep any of the Van Halen stuff, like memorabilia-wise? Do you have a Frankenstein guitar laying around somewhere?
Oh, I got a dozen of them.
Oh, you're full of shit.
Not.
Why?
I would be a wealthy man if I did.
Yeah. Are you a wealthy man?
No.
Why not?
Because I didn't have a point on that record.
What did you do after the band let you go?
Well, I took my wife on a 8-month trip around the world.
Yeah, I don't need to hear like every. I just want to know
honeymoon.
like major occupation thereafter.
We did Prophet.
Did what?
Prophet was
What?
a pretty good band.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Profit the band.
Tried to break them. Took a long time. And they screwed up too, but they screwed up before they started. They were the biggest embarrassment I ever had. I invited everybody that I knew down to a club in Manhattan. And they picked that one time to get so screwed up that they couldn't sing, dance, or play a musical instrument.
Everybody's
I
unprepared
could have
except
sung
Noel.
better, and I can't sing. I'm tone deaf.
Wow. Well, that's too bad. Maybe we'd be talking about the new book about Prophet right now if it wasn't for that night.
Nah, talk about my old book about the Sex Pistols.
Yeah, man, you got that. Did you do that with co-writer Joe Layden as well?
Nothing but good about him.
I understand
But
that.
He's
my
brilliant.
my friend Sid would teach you a lesson.
Yeah, he would, huh?
He wouldn't take any of your crap.
Are you
I
threatening
take
me
all
now,
of it
Noel?
'cause I got
Are you
to.
threatening me, sir?
Well, absolutely. I'll bring Sid back and he'll whip your bloody butt.
He's a little scrawny son of a bitch.
What happened
You
with
know what
No.
I'd do? I'd leg
You
sweep
can
and then I'd
talk
elbow
good
to the
over
throat.
radio, but come on, I'll meet you in the alley. No, just kidding. I had 12 security guards. You know,
Yeah, it helps, doesn't it?
WDFA. We didn't fool around.
You didn't fuck around, is what you meant to say.
That's true. That's true, too.
Noel, I'll tell you, Jay and I do a lot of interviews. You wouldn't know it from this one, but we do a lot of interviews and we read a lot of books. I never start reading a book or taking notes until I know that the guy that wrote it or the subject matter will be a guest on this show. I read this book and I took full notes before you were even booked, sir. I enjoyed it a lot. I think Van Halen fans will get a lot out of this book. It's called Running With The Devil, a backstage pass to the Wild Times, Loud Rock, and Down and Dirty Truth Behind the Making of Van Halen by Noel Monk and Joe Layden, of course.
Give Joe his props.
That's right. Noel, thank you very much for the time, buddy.
Thanks, Noel.
I appreciate it. You guys got a good sense of humor if you can put up with me.
Shit, yeah, buddy.
I really appreciate you bringing me on, because without you, no book.
And the cool thing is, Noel, we have your phone number now, that your personal
And
cell
you
phone.
know what? You can call me anytime
That's
you want.
what we
Day or
wanted to
night.
hear,
I'll-
sir.
I'll tell you the same thing, whether I'm sleeping or not.
All
Whether
right.
you're sober
If
or
I'm
drunk.
Sober.
Yep.
That's right.
If I'm-
We're going to take you
Thank
up on
you,
that.
guys.
Thank you, buddy.
Take care, man.
We'll talk to you
Have a
soon.
great evening.
You too.
I hope you both get laid.
Ah, thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you, Noel. Still there.
Hang up the phone, Noel. Oh. Squeaky screen door.
I just want to hear fridge opening a beer crate.
Glug, glug, glug.
Or him bitching about us.
It's dastardly. Wake up, Noel. Noel. I am coming for you, Noel.
You do not threaten J. Detroit Cast.
I am coming for you.
Gross.
Noel, buddy.
Hey, Noel. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Jay and Mike with the Chicago Cast. We're lucky to have Noel Monk on the line talking about his fabulous new book, Running With The Devil. Noel, are you there?
Noel, how are you, sir? Thanks for joining us. Yeah, he just walked away.
All right,
Well,
hang it up.
that was not what I expected, sir.
Yeah.
Because, dude, bottom line, I'm not kidding. Joe Layden did a good job. This is a pretty good book, man.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
And Van Halen fans, honestly, will.
Yeah, they'll like this book.
They will. They will like it. I liked it. You liked
Yeah.
it.
Do
It's full
not
of a lot of stuff.
let that interview fool you. It's a damn good book.
You think he's just a weird, quirky guy?
Maybe.
I mean, I was going to ask him, like, why did the guys from Van Halen coldly cut you out and fire you and blah, blah? And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
if he was our
The
manager,
whole thing's a fucking mess.
dude, I don't know how much of that I could have put up with, but I don't know. I'm sorry you folks had to listen to a
Of
lot
course,
of
we're,
that. But
33 years beyond the firing, you know what I mean? So he
Yeah.
could have really had it together back then.
yeah.
Could have.
I don't know. That was weird. Maybe that's how he sounds. I almost want to call him back in like a couple days and just be like, hey, man, and just see if he sounds like that or if
Yeah.
it's like,
Oh, we'll call him back.
Yeah. Yeah.
My man, Noel.
Hell yeah. Not a coincidence that his number ends in 5150, dude. I don't buy that. And it's not that hard. The Red Wings players all had their jersey numbers incorporated in their cell phones, so it's not that hard to do. Anyway, that was Noel Monk. Hopefully you guys got something out of that.